used to be at one point. It's sort of penetrated into every industry, be it healthcare, education, finance, consumer technology, right? It is driving companies' operations these days, how industries are functioning. That is also driven by AI. And more importantly, I think it's also impacting the daily decisions that we make as individuals in our lives every day, right? That's how much AI has sort of penetrated in every area of our life. And with all these opportunities, of course, there are certain legal implications and legal challenges, especially that companies have to deal with, right? Be it intellectual property, data privacy, navigating the regulatory frameworks. So we're joined tonight by a stellar panel. We have legal leaders from AI-driven companies who will sort of, help us understand that how do you, amongst other things, of course, how do we navigate the need to adopt AI quickly, but also responsibly in a legally hygienic manner, so to say. So I'll just start without much delay by just introducing our panelists. So first up, we have Nana Boyer. Nana is based in New York. She's on the legal leadership team at the Lifetime Value Company. She has over 15 years of experience across big law firms and as well as certain senior in-house counsel roles. She brings a wealth of practical insights into navigating legal complexities for technology-driven enterprises. So over to you, Nana, if you can just give a small introduction and maybe your opening commentary on the topic that we will be discussing today.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the introduction, Shrita, and hello to the panel. Looking forward to the conversation. As Shrita mentioned, my legal career spans about a decade in commercial litigation at large law firms, and then the last 5 years in senior leadership roles in-house. And just in those 5 years between 2020 and 2025, how we use AI, how it affects our products, our interaction with our customers, and the considerations that we never thought would be at the forefront has changed dramatically. And sort of to set the tone, I think the phrase that we as a team and as an organization keep coming back to when we talk about AI is, we thought we had more time. And we don't. It's here.
Yeah. Great. Thanks for that introduction, Anna. And we'll, of course, be picking your brain throughout our session tonight, but lovely to have you on board. Next, we have Sid O'Broy. He's a San Francisco-based technology and business attorney. Since 2008, he has advised innovators on data and privacy, intellectual property, transactions, and as well as product and regulatory strategies. He brings deep expertise at the intersection of law, data, and innovation. So over to you, Sid, if you can just give a small introduction and sort of your thoughts on the topic that we will be discussing today.
Sure. Thank you for the intro. I think AI is entering our world, whether we're ready or not. And I think that the job now is to get ready for it. From a legal perspective, there's a consents and rules about how it's used and where it's deployed. But the way that we're going to interact with the software we spent the last 20 years building will change. This is the moment it's going to change. So where I see it is data privacy has become like the most important topic you can know about. And this is never going to stop. And so it's important to, like the title of this panel suggests, we need to embrace it and not resist it. We need to really take it and use it and find ways to put it into practice in a way that includes everybody in the situation, not excludes anybody. So that's me.
Great. Thanks. Very, very happy to have you on board tonight, Sid. Welcome.
Thank you.
Our third panelist is 𝗘𝗺𝗃. She's the head of legal at 𝗜𝗺𝗽. She brings rich experience from her time at Redaptive and 𝗘𝗺𝗃_Mahajan, where she advised mergers and acquisition, venture capital deals, as well as corporate matters. She's a Columbia Law LLM graduate and an alumni of NLIU Bhopal. She's a dual qualified lawyer, both in New York and India. She has unique experience representing both fast growth AI ventures and big tech companies. So very, very happy to have you on board today, Pallavi. Over to you. If you can just introduce yourself a little bit and give your open commentary, being open liner on the topic that we will be talking about today.
Sure. Thank you so much, Shweta, for having us. Very delighted to be here on the panel and looking forward to the discussion ahead of us. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who are watching us today. My initial thoughts on the topic, what I understand by embracing AI is, I think, innovation, safety, and transparency around this technology needs to go hand in hand. There needs to be balancing of rights. We cannot live without this technology. At the same time, we have to understand the safety and transparency issues around it. Also, some of the challenges that come to my mind are, some key regulatory challenges, IP related issues, algorithmic discrimination that it is causing. For regulatory challenges, I think because the momentum for AI regulation is really at an all-time high across globe, across jurisdictions. We are seeing in the US, all states are passing their own AI legislations. So it's going to create a very complex regulatory landscape that we lawyers, in-house lawyers, need to navigate across. So I think those are the challenges that come to my mind, and few initial thoughts. We can touch upon those as we go along. The famous, currently in India, we are witnessing OpenAI, this ANI versus OpenAI case, touching on key critical IP issues. So we can touch base on these as we go along.
Great. Thanks for that, Pallavi. Happy to have you on board. So just a question to you, because you have you are qualified in both New York and India, and you have experience of both jurisdictions. What do you think are the key differences in the AI regulatory framework in both these jurisdictions?
In India and US?
Yeah.
So in India and US, I think there are similarities because there is not one umbrella mother legislation under the roof, covering entire gambit of AI. Like in EU, we have the AI Act, which is, it is not fully enforced, and that's another challenge in the regulatory space that we lawyers face, because sometimes implementation of law happens in phases. It doesn't happen in one go. So I think there are two broad categories when it comes to AI regulation. Sometimes there's one umbrella law like the EU AI Act, and sometimes it's a patchwork of laws. So you have to, go back to looking at several laws. For example, in the US, every state, they have their own AI legislations. There is not one single federal legislation. In India, the DPDP Act, the Data Privacy Act, is still not enforced. That is also under its way. So those are the key differences, I think, between India and US. There are much similarities because there's no umbrella legislation. It's a patchwork of laws. So you have to go back to several laws and not one.
Great. Yeah, absolutely understandable. And I think enforceability is always an issue, especially in India. I'm not sure how it plays out in the US. Before we go further, we also have our last panelist, 𝗘𝗺𝗃. He's joined us. He's having some internet issues. So welcome, 𝗘𝗺𝗃. 𝗘𝗺𝗃 was until recently the head of legal secretariat and compliance at 𝗟𝗵𝗴. He has over a decade of experience across fintech and NBFCs. He has built leading compliance and governance frameworks from the ground up. He brings a pragmatic perspective on how fintech regulations and legal operations evolve in a fast-changing digital economy. So, hi 𝗘𝗺𝗃, happy to have you on board. If you could just a brief introduction of yourself and your background, that'll be great. Okay. 𝗘𝗺𝗃, can you hear us?
Sure. Hi, Shriman. Actually, it's raining over Delhi.
Yeah. Would you want to switch off your camera?
I can hear. I will hear in the hear me out.
Okay. We can't really hear you properly. Okay. He's dropped off again. No worries. We'll loop him in once he's back. Okay. So, Nana, you worked with some big, like you mentioned, law firms as well as in-house legal roles. What sort of shift have you seen in how companies approach AI-related legal risks today as opposed to, say, 10 years ago?
Well, it's twofold, really. The risks that I see practically are internal and external. Starting with external, I was a defense litigator for many years, and now I step into the shoes of defending my company against various legal challenges. And so with every new technology or every new that isn't properly regulated yet, you're always expecting that, the plaintiff's bar is always watching, that you're not doing something that can be turned into a potential case against the company that you are charged with defending. And the reason I say that from the external perspective is this is a rapidly evolving, unregulated space that implicates so many rights, starting with privacy and intellectual property, and just even pure safety for, as well as reputational risks. And I see that a lot of the plaintiffs' bar is sort of resurfacing old laws that aren't necessarily applicable to current technology and repurposing them to the current landscape. So, and because there isn't really case law to interpret AI use or misuse, there isn't a reliable expectation of how a case like that may turn out in courts. I see a lot, again, as a litigator, this interests me, and I see how judges are trying to kind of put a square peg in a round hole about applying existing legal frameworks to this rapidly evolving landscape. So the external risk that I see from purely legal risk and litigation perspective is just uncertainty. Like, I don't know how things are going to work out and how creative somebody like a regulator or plaintiff's bar is going to get to attack my company's use of AI. So that's an external piece. Internally, when I was a junior associate in 2009, 2010, the majority of my job for 2-3 years was reviewing large, vast swaths of documents or drafting initial drafts of motions, opinions, memos. There is zero need for a human to do that in today's landscape. I cannot imagine how I would utilize a junior law firm associate in years 1 through 3 or 4 in a law firm setting and pay them the pretty significant amounts of money that they normally receive when ChatGPT can do exactly the same product for me as a partner, which I would have to check anyway as I would a junior associate's work. So I think the groundbreaking effect on the legal workforce is mind-blowing, as it is on many others, but this is my world, right? But even in my current role, where the lawyers on my team are fairly senior, they don't do doc review, but we still, all of us, are first, we still use AI to do the initial drafts of things, whether it's proposals, memos, ideas, letters. And I think the challenge is that we cannot ever lose sight of having to have human oversight over the work product and get comfortable and complacent that ChatGPT knows what they're doing and we can just ship things off without thinking it through, because our reputations, our expertise, our companies' well-being is on the line. We just have to not get complacent with that very efficient work product.
Great. No, it's very interesting what you said about a junior associate maybe being replaceable by, say, AI in 3 years. I do understand what you're saying, and we also have started using AI a lot, at least like you said, for our initial drafts, memos, but I think nothing as of now can replace human or legal acumen. I have seen AI hallucinating case laws as well. So it is not completely reliable. And I mean, till AI is going to go to court and argue, I think we're a little safe. I think so.
Right. But as a senior associate or a partner,
Yeah.
I would never ship off a junior associate's work without doing spot checks, without checking the case law, the proposition. So I do the same thing with AI. It's I think it's just a big challenge for young lawyers to find ways to create additional value around their skills, their human skills, that maybe isn't the challenge that we had as young lawyers 15 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I mean, they have to, I think you have to be on top of AI, right? You have to embrace it like our topic is at hand today. So thanks for that, Nana. So Sid, maybe we can have your thoughts also in this aspect. And also, I think you've dealt with data platforms. So how do you think companies should sort of go about data privacy or protecting personal data? Because a lot of AI-driven companies heavily rely on data collection and, personal data.
Yeah. And I'm talking about this from the perspective of fintech, where I now work, but also the Silicon Valley, where I worked my whole career. Here, like every company and everybody I know is working in new AI applications. We don't know that all of them will be successful, and we don't know which ones will be successful. So everyone's trying everything. and it's like getting a shiny new tool to play with, and you don't really know what it can do yet. So you just kind of try a bunch of things out. So people who resist it will lose out. People that overly rely on it will also suffer because they won't know how to, you turn in a thing and you haven't proofread and you look like a clown. So there's that kind of reputational damage to be had by everybody that touches it. But there's also the exploration of like, actually, what value can this bring to the world and people and its users? Because we all suspect that this is good. We just don't know exactly the ways that it is yet. And we think back to like a previous wave or two waves ago of like innovation. We see social media, which was like a very interesting thing at the time, and it was going to connect a bunch of people. And I happened to come up just as that was happening. So we saw that it had like benefits and also heavy costs, and it took a while to realize that. So here we are at the beginning of this one too. And so when we talk about regulations that are coming up or lawmakers' reactions to this new technology, I think they're being heavily informed by the last thing that happened, which they hated. I think overall, the final analysis of social media is that it's bad. It was like, it really hurt the world. So now we're trying to prevent that from happening again. So there's a bunch of laws. They write aspirational laws, and then they don't enforce them because they're kind of not sure how to do that. Because, and this is my main point, we don't know how to use this yet. We don't know exactly its applications or what its costs are. So everyone is reluctant to enforce these laws to protect people before we all get the benefits of it. There's also the geopolitical lens where countries want to dominate AI because they saw from the last few waves, if you don't get this technology, you're going to lose. So there's a bunch of things there. But that makes it so that here in the Silicon Valley, in the Bay Area, there's a very light regulatory touch because we kind of want the innovation to happen. It's good for everybody. It feels like, hey, just see what happens. We'll give you 30 more days. Okay, 30 more years. Let's just see how far this can go. So I think the frameworks are probably well-intentioned, but always going to be limited by their site. And that's why we're not going to see them enforced for a while. And the more inclusive this technology can become, the better it will be, and the laws will adopt to that. A great example from my own legal experience is the application of the FCRA, which is the Federal Credit Reporting Act, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, sorry. And that is to protect consumers from like data, credit scores and stuff being used when making, lending decisions about them. I built a product at a couple of companies ago that was a modern version of this credit report. And I had to have a conversation with the FTC, the exact regulator on this, where they noted that we couldn't comply with this 1950s law because of some clunky things like you must have people in an office from business hours at any time with all of the printed files of anyone's credit report available at any time. That's ridiculous now. So we didn't do that. And instead, we modernized it and we gave access in different ways. And so the FTC, in evaluating our more modern product that did not meet the letter of the law, but instead met the spirit of the law, they found it to be very good, and they really liked it. And so that's like one of the best things that's ever happened to me, because we tried to protect the little guy, and we kind of cut corners with like the actual literal application of the law. But that's what people want. They want the little guy to be protected. So here too, we'll see that who was saying like applying an old law that doesn't really make sense. Like, as long as it's protecting the little guy, I feel that will be okay. And I think that's what the new laws will be like. It'll be about like inclusion, not exclusion, and fairness, and a kind of, informed perspective rather than discriminatory. I think these are the things we're going to see. Because if you turn in some product that you haven't checked from AI, you take your own life in your hands, because you don't know what that says, and you don't know if it's hallucinated basis for those conclusions. So I have a mixed view on this thing, to recap.
Great. No, thanks for that insight. And yes, of course, right now the legal framework, I think most of the jurisdiction is not certain. It's more of a trial and error. And yes, the courts are also very highly judicious before enforcing. So I think like a very, very pertinent question that I would actually like to open to the entire panel is, and I think it's, again, different perspectives in different jurisdictions, but who do you think really owns the IP in an AI built product, right? That's a heavily debated issue. So maybe we can start with you, Pallavi. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think no jurisdiction as of yet makes AI own the IP. And I think that's what's making IP issues extremely critical. The ownership of data in AI extremely difficult and extremely critical. So I think your best buddies to kind of protect your interest there are contracts, how you draft your contracts,
Yeah.
and how you absolutely make sure in your contracts what data belongs to whom, what data belongs to the user side, to the client side, what data belongs to the vendor side on the AI, because no jurisdiction as of now have come up with that with AI being able to hold ownership, IP ownership in the data. So and ownership could be, the lines for ownership could be very blurred, whether it's input data or whether it's output data. So the contracts need to really define very clearly and distinguish between the data, the ownership of different data. It could be completely mixed. So both sides need to be very careful and make that distinction very clear. So I think, yeah, contracts is the way forward for now. I think laws will eventually evolve around it, but for now, contracts. You go to the drafting and the contracts and make sure that it's clearly stated in the contract what belongs to you and what belongs to the vendor on the AI side.
Great.
Rightly said. I mean, you must be aware. For India, in India, like at least in copyright, an author has to be a natural person. So that's a big challenge, right? Who is the author? An owner can still say be a company or an entity, but the author has to be a natural person, and that's a big challenge or a big loophole that's there in our legislation. So yeah. So over to you, Nana. What is your opinion on who really owns the IP in, say, an AI generated output? How is, say, the US jurisdiction dealing with it as of now, and your opinion on it?
Yeah, no, the reality is I don't know the answer to that. And that is what makes the landscape so treacherous, and why we need to be so vigilant and adaptive to how things change. And, I'll give you a good example. One of the products that my company makes is sort of like a life coach app. All right. And so there's a variety of different things. There's fun things, there's challenges. And one of the things we're trying out is an image generator. So, you upload photos of yourself, your family, your kids, and they either modernize it or, do something different. We're using ChatGPT to power it. But of course, immediately we run into issues of, okay, how do we protect the privacy of the users who are uploading their images? How does the ownership change between the input of those, which we don't retain and don't own, and the output that has come out of our product, but really has been generated by ChatGPT? And really, does the ownership go back to the original submitter user of the app, right? And because this isn't legislated, and we're not really contracting with the users as much as we're just presenting them with the terms of use of the app and solicit certain consents from them. Like, that is how we navigate that landscape. And that's not necessarily intellectual property in its very definition, but just ownership of sensitive data, images, likeness, that comes up in every kind of thing where we utilize IP. So I wholeheartedly agree with 𝗘𝗺𝗴 that in the absence of legislation, it is up to us as lawyers at the head of our organization to create well-rounded terms for users, where it's not sort of where it's not an arm's length contract, but it's just the terms that are presented to the user, where we solicit not only broad enough consent, but also enforceable consent. That's the other side of the coin. We can't just have them give away all the rights to their data and do whatever we want with them with an AI model. And as far as actual copyrightable products are concerned, again, we don't know the answer to that. I mean, it's going to be a trial and error. And if some things that, again, some of our products that heavily rely on AI, where do we draw the line? Where's the USPTO going to draw the line? We are building precedent as we go through with this now, but again, circling back to what is our role in protecting our companies, and that is cautious, enforceable terms, balancing risk with existing competition, And again, going back to what Sid said that I thought was a great point is, in the age of social media, we moved fast and broke things, and we broke them so hard that they're now irreversibly broken. And I hope we learn our lessons from this. Like, we don't need to break things. We need to move cautiously and with careful consideration.
Great.
I'll just jump in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we have to be cautious and also allow this also to be helpful. I sound like I'm the advocate for letting this technology run free, but I'm not. I just know that, like, I have myself been the guy in many organizations, the only one sometimes, like, advocating to get data rights in contracts, or like to care about the data. And everybody said, well, who cares if this data doesn't matter? But now we finally see that it's like actually the most important thing. And so it's a somewhat private validation for my instincts there, but also because we know that data fuels all of this stuff. And every inventor's great idea needs data to run it. And so we have that data web. Another point we're talking about is like the intersection of IP rights and ownership, but also contractual licensing. And I think actually we'll find that license, and like a very broad license granted in terms of use that are click-through, will be the way forward. But that's not very satisfying, because you just signed away you gave someone a fully paid up license and worldwide, to your face. Like, that's kind of a lot. So we'll see some interesting outcomes of that. But I do think that we will see also some beneficial ways of using this. And so the key, I think, is to echo what we're all saying, is to find the right balance of non-exploitative technology, but also allow this stuff to help us, because it's meant to help us. Someone made it to make our lives easier. Like, as much as those first-year legal associates don't have anything to do now, maybe they will spend, we'll find something for them, because they'll have to get trained to like think of the prompts, because maybe prompts are king now. And like, what do you want to find here? Because, like, if you flash back to that early time in our careers, we didn't know. We just read it all. And like, we wrote notes, and then our boss told us, oh, line 5 is all I wanted. Thank you. Well, maybe we can cut to the chase and just say, like, figure out this question, and I'll leave it to you to figure it out, little, young person. Yeah. And then come back and they will have devised it. And that's something. Like, that's like actually thinking. It's not just like, reading words and like, like the point of the story, Nana, was that work is kind of mechanical and easy to replace. And so therefore, why do it? Why even put humans on that?
Yeah.
So this is an improvement of like the quality of life potentially, but it must be in a way that like is not exploitative to people. That's
Could not agree more.
Great. Thanks for that insight, Sid. I have another question that I was just hearing you out. While the topic is embracing AI, have we become over-reliant on it, thinking less than we used to think before? We learned law or whatever we did a certain way because we did not have AI. So do you think AI supports that? Or is it really, really killing our thinking capability? I mean, the devil's advocate would say, no, it's freeing up my mind to think of better things, right? And not the mundane things. But I do feel that it is sometimes, killing the creative instinct, even as lawyers. First go to is, okay, let me just ask ChatGPT. Earlier, I may have probably picked up a commentary or like a case law to try to really figure it out and maybe even come up with a better answer. So what do you guys think about it? Maybe we'll start with you, Pallavi, this time.
Yeah, sure. I think it's good to have few leads using the AI, but I think personally, I don't rely on all the answers at all. And I do my own research because it just completely depends on, what data it's being trained on, and it just scrapes data from publicly available sources. So we have to be extremely mindful of that. It could be absolutely inaccurate. The answers, the outputs could be absolutely inaccurate. So I wouldn't completely rely on it, but yes, I do think that it's just become one source to go to, to find quick answers and quick leads. When we didn't have this, we used to go to 10 different sources, and now that's the first thing that we go to. So yes, I do agree with you there that, it's kind of killing the creativity, and it's killing other sources, other more reliable sources, maybe, perhaps. But yes, I wouldn't completely rely on it.
Great, thanks. Sid, what do you have to say about that? I think you are a proponent of AI here completely, like.
I didn't mean to be. I did, so that's I'm surprised about that too. I don't think I am. I mean, like again, and the social media theme is also surprising. But I'll take one more point from the social media world. Like now, there's a concept of like go outside and be in nature, go outside and touch grass. Okay,
Yeah.
like go outside and be around nature because you're too much on a keyboard. So that what the point of that is like the recognition that humans are still like animals, and we need to like do some like face-to-face talking and thinking. And, you know, for lawyers, I think we're mostly language people. We like words. We like the choice of words. It's like it's fun to choose the right word when you're writing something. And now that's taken away from us in a way. Someone else is doing it, and they're, you know, it takes some of the joy out about like crafting a really powerful sentence that we must have liked. So I think, and like as I have children who learn how to type before they learn how to write, that also is like a human thing that like actually it's scientists have shown that writing with your hand, that gets things in your brain better. So here too, I think we'll find a balance between like the things that we like doing that are like good for us to do and we like really connect with, and the things that the parts that we don't find much value in, because I think we will end up writing these things because we like it. And also I think 𝗂𝗶𝗴 was kind of getting to the point that like when we read a bunch of things looking for one thing, when we read 10 things, you don't know that those other 9 things aren't going to be important later on. Like you will, like suddenly here I am talking about social media a lot. I didn't know that I was going to talk about it, but it's in my mind. I have it ready to go. So like that, like that's how the human mind works. So I think we'll find that we still like some of the things that we gave away, and we'll take them back, and we'll find like the right level of work to give to AI. And check it, because like if the AI, the machine is only as good as the data it has. And so if it doesn't have access to the case law, it won't know the case that you're looking for. So that's dangerous.
Absolutely.
I remember back in the days in law school, you know, we used to have those thick books, and we used to go to the very back of the book to see the subjects and the index, and then go to the pages before the table of contents. Yeah, I think today's generation will not know that with AI. They'll just go to AI, chat GPT, and type in there. Yeah. So those things, I think, those nuances will be missed.
I mean, to be fair, I went to law school 15, 16 years ago, 18 years ago. Oh my God. I went to law school 18 years ago, and I don't know how to research case law in books because we had Westlaw. And it was the same exact concern at the time, that how are lawyers going to ever find the right authorities if they don't know how to use books? And you know what? We're fine. So and honestly, like I think that was the issue with so much of human progress, where, you know, when we invented electricity, was that going to kill us all? And when we invented the internet, was that going to be the end of the world? And not to say that we did great with any of those things, but circling back to what you guys are saying, like if we learn the lessons of how to maintain human oversight, think through the repercussions, check their work, like it can free us up to do more creative, more human things. It's like I read somewhere where it says like, I don't need AI to write poetry for me. I wanted to do my taxes so I can be free to write poetry. And so again, just like being very cognizant about what we do and don't use it for. You know, same as once we invented the industrial manufacturing processes, more people were free to invent things, and progress accelerated.
Absolutely.
Again, with acceleration of that progress came terrible working conditions and, you know, social injustices. So for us, does it mean that, you know, Terminator 2 happens? But yeah, guardrails for progress is my very idealistic view on this. But, you know, I do love accomplishing a simple task in 90 seconds that could take me 5 hours of initial research.
Absolutely. I think all of us are using it. One interesting thing that we are trying to do at our firm, just to ensure that we're on top of it, we have like these contests where we ask people to create tools that simplify their tasks, their daily tasks, okay, be it like a sales team or a growth team or a lawyer, right? So that at least you're thinking like that, right? And we have rewards. So at least like we try to create that competition so that people embrace it, because I feel that people on the technical side, maybe engineers or people with IT background, they're more open to embracing AI. People in creative fields, even lawyers, they don't want to, especially litigators. For the longest time, I worked with like really well-known litigators who won't even have a system in their office. You had to go with like pen and paper and a draft, and they would mark it with a red pen like a teacher. So I guess, yeah, we have to find that balance and sort of free our time for deeper thinking, things
And
that
especially
don't.
those kind of drafts, right, which are like cookie cutters or which are like basic.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's about finding that. My only concern is all of us are experienced here, so we might be able to do it. I just feel that it's come at a time where maybe the freshers or the youngsters won't even learn the basics because they're so heavily reliant on.
Dependent on the technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Another
mean,
question.
oh,
Sorry,
sorry.
please. No,
I was
please,
going to
please
say
go ahead.
one more thing about that. I mean, just I said this the other day, but like, I'm here in San Francisco in the Gold Rush place. I mean, these are each new waves of innovation, and each one gets like some early adopters and some resistance, and both
Yeah.
are right. They're always both right. There is some great value in there, but there's also some like go out and touch grass. Like you still want that. So there still will be that desire. And so like in defense of the old timer who still does it the old way, I mean, that's what he's doing. That's what he thinks, like, this is how I get it in my head, and I'm most powerful. And probably if they've been doing it for so long, there's some proof to that. They're like, look at this. I've built this with my red pen and paper. Like, they're not wrong. But
Yeah.
so I think they'll like the younger generations will have to adopt, to the new, adopt new styles and to adapt to the new technology. And they will, I think they're going to be prompt masters. I think that's what I think. It's just to figure out, like, before you even look at a thing, what am I looking for? And then look for it. Like that is something that maybe we just start reading before we even know. And like that, maybe that's foolish. We'll see it in hindsight.
Same like our kids learn to swipe before they learn how to hold a pen.
Yeah, or learn alphabets. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Another question to all of you. You're all in-house legal leaders in different domains. I mean, we have fintech, Sid, right? And then Anna, I think it's a data-driven organization where you're simplifying data.
Yep.
So what are the biggest legal challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis? I'm assuming maybe it's more contractual. Maybe you're dealing with contracts on a daily basis. So what is it that takes up the majority of your time as an in-house counsel of a company that's majorly AI-driven? Maybe Nana, if you can.
Sure. Because our company is essentially in the business of productizing publicly available data, our biggest concerns have to do with privacy, because we have a lot of both first-party data and third-party data. And by that, I mean our users who sign up for our products and the data that we acquire, productize, and distribute. So privacy is probably my biggest sort of overarching legal concern that has to do both with just how we handle data in various jurisdictions, but also how do we apply privacy concerns to the various new innovations, products, or programs that our engineers and our product teams are writing. So that's also a constantly changing landscape, as you know, in the United States, a completely different landscape in other countries like the EU, the UK. Of course, as in-house counsel, as you all know, we wear 30 different hats every day. So, I also deal a lot with a diverse, geographically dispersed workforce that is sophisticated and educated. And so, there are always considerations of how do we properly protect our workforce? What do we do with hiring, with terminations, again, with internal privacy? So, just people management is always a thought. And then my third biggest challenge always is evolving creativity of regulators and plaintiffs bar in the landscape that is always changing and always provides opportunities for some new assault or challenge on organizations. So, what new creative lawsuit is going to come down the pipeline for me and my colleagues in our industry with whom we have a great relationship as to kind of pooling resources and thoughts. And yeah, again, always the litigator in me just defending the company and its practices to the best of my ability, pivoting in reaction to some of these things and preventing them happening in the future, always learning. and given, distilled practical advice to busy business-oriented executives who do not
Yeah.
want to hear my long legal memo. Like 2 sentences in human speak. That is my job.
Yeah, I can understand. That might be a big challenge as an in-house counsel.
It's literally the best skill. Like speaking lawyer to lay people is what you learn the best as you grow as a lawyer.
Yeah, lovely.
Especially in-house rules.
Yeah. What about you, Pali? What is like the biggest legal challenge or the most legal issues, the primary legal issues that you deal with on a daily basis in your role?
Right. Can't agree more with Nana. Compliance issues, data privacy issues. We lawyers, I think we are kind of paid to be afraid of our own shadows, but I think we also need to keep the business goals in mind, business interest in mind. So I think my first step towards approaching when any internal stakeholders, business heads, business teams come to me that, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? I think we don't understand what really is happening in the AI realm. It's very important to, I think, understand and sit down what exactly is happening, what really is happening, what data is transferring from where to what exactly are we collecting. It's very easy to just, say on the face of it that, we can't do this, or, this will make us non-compliant. But sometimes when you deep dive into it, you might find yourself that, hey, we can absolutely do this. Because sometimes when you, like example, the EU AI Act, it lists down, it has a risk-based approach. So it categorizes AI systems into different kind of risk categories. And, you may not be high risk, your system may not fall into under, high risk AI systems. But on the prima facie read of the law, you might think that, it will list down 10 different industries like education, healthcare, this and that. And if you fall under those categories, you are a high risk. But you have to really, come at the ground details of it and understand your technology. What is it exactly doing? Is it really doing what the law is saying that, it will make you fit into that category? Sometimes the answer is no. So I think as a lawyer from a non-tech background, for me, I think it is very important to understand what is really happening and then accordingly advise the business teams and not just say that, hey, don't have that very restrictive approach as a lawyer, as your basic instinct says.
Yeah.
So that is one challenge. Another challenge, I think, is, to have proper frameworks. What kind of frameworks you would advise your company, like have your own set of AI guidelines. I would divide these things into 3 phases. Like, when you're in that phase, when no incident has occurred in your company, that's like the best phase, like they say, the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war, that famous saying in warfare as it goes. So I think that's the best time, know your obligations upfront, know your compliance requirements upfront. If your company is operating globally, then yes, it becomes very difficult. It becomes a challenge to, keep up with the pace, with all the different kinds of compliance regimes. But when nothing is happening in your company, take that extra time to, make policies, make internal AI committees to sort of, monitor things on a daily basis. What kind of products are integrating, where is it going, what audience is it catering to, what are the compliance requirements there. So it's a lot of work from compliance standpoint, but I think it makes you ready for, if something comes up tomorrow, if some issue happens, if some leakage happens. So, you're at least prepared for that.
Great. Thanks for that answer. And what really did interest me and would have also been a subsequent question was, as lawyers, how important is it for us to understand the product?
Yes, exactly.
Right, because like you said, the first instinct is to follow the letter of the law and say, okay, you can't do this, you can't do that.
Right.
But then you have to align with business goals.
That's not what your business head wants to hear. That's not what your CEO wants to hear, right? That, hey, I can't do business here, I can't do business that. Another thing I think I would like to highlight is, the intersection of AI and data privacy laws. Mostly they complement each other with respect to transparency requirements, consent requirements. But sometimes I think there are also zones of frictions that you have to be aware of. So it's kind of at loggerheads with each other. So keeping that in mind, also your advice becomes very critical. I think, for example, all data privacy laws, you need to obtain valid consent. Now that also consent requirements differs from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. Example, if the DPDP Act, whenever it comes into force in India, it has very stringent consent requirements. But under EU AI Act, sometimes not the AI Act, the GDPR, other laws, sometimes implied consents could also work. So you have to be mindful of consents. But when AI comes into play, sometimes, that you can go beyond consent. The business teams may not even realize that, you need, since you've obtained consent for one purpose, you cannot jump and do something else with consent. That is very critical. So, and if the business team doesn't come to you and they just go ahead and do something with the AI systems, you are in breach and you may not even realize it. So I think also educating your internal business teams, internal stakeholders is also very important as lawyers, that, you have to restrict yourself to just this job, to this kind of data processing and not something else. So there are frictions between, data privacy laws and AI. Consent is one thing. I think another thing that I can think of is, data minimization concepts. Mostly in all data privacy laws, it tells you that, keep minimum data, keep data as much as you need for no longer than you require, all those things. But when it comes to AI technology cannot function without training data, right? And you have to like put in guzzles of tons of data for the AI system to work and for the AI system to give better performances. So that's a clear conflict. How do you balance that? So I think it becomes difficult, it becomes challenging balancing these rights.
Right.
Another
Absolutely.
interesting point, I think one more point that comes to my mind with respect to intersection of data privacy and AI is, sometimes internal business stakeholders may not even realize, and in the process of shoving in data for training, they might even give some kind of trade secret of the company. And now there's no way that you can retrieve back that information from AI, and it's out in the public. So it becomes very critical to educate your internal stakeholders, your business teams, what they can and what they cannot do from a legal law standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Thanks for those insights, Pallavi. Very, very practical considerations. You gave us some nice pointers on data privacy and AI. Over to you, said you were in fintech. I think fintech also comes with a degree of liability. I mean, when a consumer is, say, using an app or a platform to make financial decisions, right? You need those proper checks and balances, those disclaimers in place, right? That
yeah, it's true that there's their patient health information, which is the most sensitive,
most
then
critical, absolutely.
Financial, and then right below that would be anything involving children, which is perhaps where 𝗂𝗶𝗶 operates. But yeah, this is very delicate situations about people's money and and financial profiles. So we take it very seriously, and so I really like 𝗂𝗶𝗶's point about the understanding the actual use of the product, going that second or third degree into the details, because probably the company is trying to help people, and as much as it wants to profit off the services it's providing, the services are intended to benefit the user, and so they have some good intentions. Their way of going about it might be clumsy, but it's important to go as far into the technical weeds as we can. I know many lawyers don't have the technical background, and can be intimidating, but I think it's worth hearing it, even if you understand 1% of what's being thrown past your head, because I think they're trying to find new and innovative ways to help most of the time. Unless there could be the marketing situation of I just want to get this, I want to get an advertisement in front of a person. There's that, but even that is somewhat well-intentioned. They think their services will help. So when you're dealing with sensitive situations like financial information, it's really important to make sure the data is right, the AI has got the right rules and restrictions around it, the way it's deployed in the product is helpful and follows the kind of expectations and guidelines. And doesn't also, something we haven't talked about is the creep factor of how do you know that? How did you get that information? When you're dealing with the data, sometimes data is something that you didn't know it knew, and it scares you to hear it be told to you. So there's also that, I introduced the concept of customer expectation, that that the use of AI should be somewhat predictable, or somewhat in as they expect it to be, a machine, and not some scary thing whoa, you're a person I know or something. I don't know. There's these, that's the thing about technology. It can creep you out with how much data it has. So all of these things are important, but as long as I think my guiding principle is, as long as we are really doing right by all parties involved, the little guy most of all, not the big businesses, but the little guy, the person trying to get help, then I think we'll be on the right side of it. It can be with use of disclaimers and and additional dialogues that pop up and make you realize you've given consent, or like easy to find preferences so you can opt in and opt out of the services you want. Like put the user in control, put the person in control of their own experience, so that what happens is within their expectations. I think that's critical. The legal framework there is always going to be triggered by someone getting creeped out. I think that's always the case. Like, this is just more than I really wanted it to say and do, and now it's scared me. And now, so it starts with that. There's always speaking of plaintiffs' bars, Nana, like there's like, bored, wealthy people that just want to litigate an issue, and that happens all the time. That's who those people are. And when they see some like unclear data consent language and some overly broad AI consent, that's money, that's dollar signs for them. Like they
money
will go and, right. And so they'll go after it. And it doesn't mean that anyone's been harmed. That's the most irritating thing.
But you still have to defend it.
Right. And so
and you don't know how, because it hasn't been litigated yet.
Right. And they find that to be delicious. That's so fun for them to be in the headlines, to be the person whose name is forever associated with that case law. Wonderful. So
yeah, when you're in your winning side of it.
Yeah, but they'll go for that. They're bored, wealthy people. They're into it. Right. They'll go and fight about something. So I just mean, they're not going to stop. They're out there. When you find that fact pattern, we are going to jump on it and try to correct it in such a way that doesn't, impinge on our company's ability to deliver value. And so this is like a multimodal kind of balancing act that we do every day. So we're really in the thick of it now.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for that answer. Yeah. Another question before I go to my last question. I have personally seen that GDPR, the European policy, is a go-to policy for most data privacy concerns, even in India. And although it is it's a jurisdiction-specific legislation, right? But I see even Indian companies leaping. We want to be GDPR compliant. Why do you think that is the case? Yes, of course, I've read the policy. It is all embracing, and it is quite detailed. Maybe that's the reason. But is that has also been your experience? Has this been your experience? Because I am on the other side. I'm representing a law firm, right? So I have clients who want to sort of abide to that. You're on the other side. You are the company. So why are companies gravitating towards GDPR more than other privacy policies? Of course, Indian legislation is a little inadequate, I understand. But is this the general, I would say, perception? Pallavi,
Yes,
over to you.
absolutely, Shweta. I think because the most important and primary reason is because it was the first legislation that came, right, in this space. It's the mother of the laws for all data privacy laws. And after that, everything followed. In the US, different states have legislated like CCPA, CPRA, California privacy laws. And also in US, privacy laws are very sector specific. You'll have FERPA for, protecting the privacy rights of students. You have COPA protecting the privacy rights of children. You have HIPAA for, protecting privacy rights of patients. So, yeah, so I think GDPR is like the umbrella law, the mother of all laws for protecting basic privacy rights. And therefore, I think everyone gravitates towards it. And I think if you are GDPR compliant, you reflect kind of, that your data privacy practices are at least, they comply with the highest level of thresholds for compliance and all those things. So I think that kind of gives businesses a basic comfort that, it'll look good facing clients. Facing customers, that shows good level of compliance for data privacy.
Right.
I think it's very simple, honestly. Like, there's two reasons why we're GDPR compliant or working on compliance. Is one, it gives us an opportunity to expand in a huge amount of other jurisdictions that are in the US, not just the UK, the EU, but other jurisdictions that have similar laws, like Brazil, or so it just expands the opportunity for our business to grow. And number two is, GDPR is more restrictive than the CCPA, which is more restrictive than other laws in the US, but the movement is towards more regulation, not towards less. So the more we do to comply with the more restrictive regulations now, the less we have to do later. So it's basically like it's coming anyway, so might as well do it to the extent that it's cost effective and aids in our expansion. So it's really like it's a win-win situation.
Yeah.
It makes business sense. It makes complete business sense, and also it's extraterritorial in nature, right? So if you have to sometimes, if you are catering to EU citizens, EU residents in any way, even though you don't have a local presence in EU, you still have to comply. So it's a business need also, legal need also, and makes complete business sense to do it.
Absolutely. Great. I think we are closing on time. So before we sort of log off, I would just like ask like a sort of a futuristic question from all of you. 5 to 10 years from now, how do you see AI shaping up in your specific sectors? And of course, even as lawyers, like internally in our practices, how do you think, how reliant would we be? How do you see AI taking over our roles in, say, 5 to 10 years? And within your industries as well, right? How do you think it would shape the industries that you are in? We could start with Sid this time.
I think that we will see a decline in like software user interfaces. I think we will interact with the machine by talking to it and telling it it's our wish, and it will deliver the result. In our legal work, I think we will find a way to use, like, why would you read 10 documents when you can just ask AI to read it for you? I mean, you just won't go back. You will check the work and feel more comfortable about it. But I think that there's no going back. We'll find the ways to find the applications of AI, and then we'll also preserve, like, I want to write this with my hand. There will be some balancing of the things that we want to retain, and then the deployment of this useful tool. I think it's unavoidable.
Absolutely, yes. Nana, what about you? What is your sort of viewpoint?
No, I completely agree. There's no going back, only forward. And the thing that we need to learn and teach our organizations is balancing risks and rewards. So, focusing just on risks, we paralyze ourselves and miss opportunities. If we focus just on the rewards and the opportunities it gives us, then we expose ourselves to liability that we don't even know of, and we erode trust in our customer base and just everyone, all the stakeholders. So, I mean, the real imperative, I think, is just building the right frameworks to innovate and use AI responsibly. And honestly, I don't think there's anybody who is better positioned in the professional space than we are, who have been taught to consider risks and rewards and implications and issue spot and come up with compliant solutions to it. So, I mean, I think it's up to us to build those frameworks. And I hope that in 10 years, we are talking from a much more effective business and regulatory frameworks for the use of this groundbreaking tool.
Absolutely. I also feel that at least we'll have some solid legislation, if nothing else.
Let's do that too.
Yeah, Pallavi, over to you.
Yeah, sure. I think in the immediate future, I think we lawyers will need to be very creative and innovative in drafting contracts. We'll have to be very open and agile and flexible. Slightly going back to your question on, ownership of data, there, I'm seeing unprecedented level of negotiations, in input and output data. So I think going forward, those kind of things will become clearer. Right now, we need to be very careful, in drafting proper carve-outs. If you're representing your AI company, if you're representing a software company, taking into interest of your vendor AI, to make proper carve-outs, draft those carve-outs very properly, so that ownerships are clear. Going forward, I think those things will become very clear, which are very murky right now. We might have copyright laws evolving around it to make clear who the ownership will lie with. Maybe AI will be able to hold ownership rights in the outputs that it gives. So those kind of future trends, I think I see.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that insight, Pallavi. And thank you all of you for being here. I've had an amazing time chatting with you, got some great practical insights, and also we discussed the role of AI in our jobs as well. So it was a highly engaging discussion for me. I hope all of you also had a good time.
And, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys. Thank you for being here. Have a good day and good evening for you, Pallavi.
Thanks, everyone. Pleasure to meet you all.
Bye.